So in today's video, we're going to be going through who have been the best 3 Premier League players in each position so far this season. So it isn't overall, it's based off what we've seen so far this season, and as said below, in no particular order. A couple of positions I've given honourable mentions to, of players that maybe quite haven't made the top 3, but they have impressed me, or players like, for example, Curtis Jones is an honourable mention. He's been injured, he's missed a lot of the season, he can't be in the top 3 players so far for his position, but when he has played, he's impressed me. You get what I'm saying. So I'm going to go from goalkeeper, right back, right centre back, left back, DM, centre mid, attacking midfield, right wing striker, all the way through to left winger. And some of these were difficult. I think striker in particular was very difficult. And if I've missed out a player and I've missed out a really obvious name, let me know in the comments, because I feel like there's like a really obvious name that I just did not think of. And it might be like they would have been in my top 3 if I actually thought of them. But I think I've remembered everybody, and I do apologise about the spelling here. I feel like Alisson has one L. He does have one L and it has 2 S's. So we will, ignore the fact that I've spelled Alisson wrong. But let's dive into it. Now, you might be thinking, Alice, you said top 3 positions, top 3 players for each position. There's 4 names here. The reason there's 4 names here is because Alisson and Kelleher are going as one, okay? Because Alisson was good, he got injured. Kelleher's come in and he's just been just as good. So they're going to count as one, and the other 2 will be Raya and Onana. So Raya, just for what he did at the start of the season, the super saves he made, he was fantastic. He's helped Arsenal out a lot. And Onana, because he's probably the reason Ten Hag kept his job as long. I think I saw a tweet and it got like 1 million views saying biggest flops this season. It had Onana in it. Onana's been good. I'm a Man United fan. I could name maybe 3 players that have been good for us this season, and Onana is one of them. He has been good. He's been good ever since the Champions League exit. I think like Caicedo, a lot of people write Caicedo and Onana as flops because they maybe didn't have the best 2 months. Onana, in particular, didn't have the best 2 months at United, made a lot of mistakes in the Champions League. But since December, Onana has been very good for United, and I feel like the same with players like Caicedo. And I wanted to include him there because people are giving him a lot of stick, but trust me, as a United fan, he has been good for us. He's top for clean sheets, save of the month. The penalty save versus Southampton has completely changed the game for us. We might have lost to Southampton under Ten Hag. Generally, Onana changed the game for us. So they're my 3 standout goalkeepers. I think Leno's been quite good. Searles has been quite good. Nick Pope's been all right. But they are the 3 goalkeepers. Right back, I've gone with Mazraoui, Ola Aina and Timber. And people are going to be saying, biased Man United fan, another Man United player in this. There's only 2 Man United players in this video, and they are Mazraoui and Onana. As I said, there's only been 3 players that I think have had a proper good season for us, and a couple of the new signings have impressed me. Like De Ligt isn't on the list, but I actually think he's been quite good. But we're not here to talk about United. I think Aina has been very good for Forest. That goal he scored was fantastic. Chelsea Academy graduate, looking good. Ewan Timbers impressed me. I know he's played left back a lot, but he can play left back, he can play right back. His technical ability on the ball, how comfortably he's on the ball, I think he's looked really, really good. I think Timber will overtake Ben White as the right back. I think Calafiore, when fit, will come as the left back for Arsenal because Martinelli plays a lot better with Calafiore there. I think him and build-up being left-footed, it helps the dynamic and improves Arsenal's left-hand side. But Ewan Timber's just a player, especially the fact that he's come back from such a big injury. I think he's been really, really good for Arsenal. And Mazraoui's been fantastic for United. Delot was Manchester United's player of the season last year. One of the only good Man United players last season was Diego Delot. Player of the season. And Mazraoui's come in. And to be honest, if I had to pick between Mazraoui and Delot, I'd pick Mazraoui. Now they've been playing because Luke Shaw and Malacia are injured. One's played left back, one's played right back. But Mazraoui's so two-footed. He can come into midfield and vert so comfortably. He's played games in midfield. Even played a game as a 10. He's not had a bad performance for United. I think maybe versus Liverpool he wasn't at his best, but he's been pretty much good every game we've got. Really, good going forward, good cross, links well with Ahmad, technical ability of him, cannot complain one bit. Going into right centre backs, so I'm doing right centre backs and left centre backs because Van Dijk and Konate have been so good that they would obviously have to be 2 of the centre backs because Liverpool's clean sheets speak for itself. But I also think there's a lot of other players that have been good that I wanted to include. So I've done right centre back and left centre back. I mean, if I had to pick 3, I'd probably say Konate, Van Dijk, maybe Colwill, but then I also thought about Murillo. I couldn't pick between these 4 because Van der Beek's had a mistake in him, but Van der Ven's also quality and so key. Spurs are nowhere near as good when Van der Ven's injured. Colwill and Chelsea have been defensively vulnerable at times, but Colwill is so good on the ball. So we've got 4 for left centre-back. But yeah, right centre-back Konate, spoken about him a lot. Off the ball, absolute beast, monster. He can defend the wide channels with ease. He can cover that area. He wins it in the air. He wins all his ground duels. He can chase players. He's strong. He's fast. I think Saliba and Konate are kind of the centre-backs that, are sort of built to deal with Haaland, because they're quick, they're fast, they're good off the ball, they're good 1v1, and also, they're very good on the ball. I think Saliba's quite good on the ball. Konate's probably a little bit better in the air than Saliba. Very good players there. Van Heck's also been very impressive at Brighton. I do think Brighton look a little bit vulnerable defensively, but they have been good, and Van Heck's impressed me. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk. Do I even need to talk about how good Virgil van Dijk is? He had a little dip after that injury and all of that, but I actually think last season Van Dijk was probably in Liverpool's top 3 best players, and this season he's been impeccable. I do think Konate's been a tiny bit better though, but Van Dijk has just been absolutely fantastic for Liverpool, and him and Konate is some pairing. The clean sheets that Liverpool have is, honestly, it's ridiculous. Obviously, Levi Colwill's really impressed me. Levi. I keep calling him Levi. I know it's Levi. And I know I'm going to get comments about that. I don't know why I keep calling him Levi. Someone called him Levi once. It was stuck in my head. Levi Colwill's impressed me. His ability on the ball, his ability to break lines is fantastic. I think Chelsea are slightly vulnerable defensively, and they'll probably have to invest into a Konate-Saliba type player to be that right centre-back pairing for Colwill. I think Colwill can do what you want on the ball. They probably need an off-the-ball monster like a Konate arc centre-back to partner Colwill. I think Fofana's had some good games. I think Tosin's had some good games, but I think Colwill, his ability on the ball, absolutely fantastic. He was wasted at left-back by Poch at times this season. I think there's a really talented player there. Really impressed me. England youth level, really impressed me at Brighton. Top player there in Colwill, and I've gone with Van de Ven because of just how important he is to Tottenham and how Tottenham drop off when he isn't there. His recovery pace, his speed, his 1v1 defending is some of the best in the league. I know Spurs, and I actually think, and I've seen people say Ange out, and the reason I won't say Ange out is I look at some of the goals Tottenham concede, and I think it comes from individual defensive errors. I think every defender at Tottenham's had a silly error in them. I don't think Porro's been at his best this season, either as a doggy. But I do think Mickey Van de Ven is so crucial and key to Spurs. The assist he got versus United, wasn't it? I mean, the way he can drive the pitch, Everton, United, such a talented player there. And then you've got to go with Murillo of Forest. I had to have a Forest player in this back line. Milinkovic and Murillo have been fantastic. I think Murillo is the better of the two. Now, Murillo is a left-sided centre-back, very good. He was linked to Newcastle, he was linked to, I believe, Liverpool, and he was linked to Manchester United a little bit in the summer. I think a top 6 club's going to go in for Murillo in the summer. I generally do. I think he's such a good player. He's so young as well, so talented, was really good for Forest last season, can even play left-back if needed. I generally believe a top club. I wouldn't be shocked if Tottenham went in for him. Because of Mickey Van de Ven's injuries, I think having him and Mickey Van de Ven and Romero be the 3 centre-backs at Tottenham's battle out would be good, because I think Tottenham need another winger for sure, just to increase the competition. There's someone that's more ready-made, but they definitely need someone that can give cover at left-back and left centre-back. And I think Murillo would be very, very good for them. I think Newcastle, maybe, obviously they've got Lloyd Kelly and they've got Botman, so maybe not, because he's a left-sided player. I think he was linked to Chelsea, to be honest, as well. But I wanted to show you some statistics here. If you look at XG against, this is the top 5 leagues. So obviously not many Premier League clubs, but Fulham have 2.2 XG against. Liverpool have, 12.2. Liverpool have 12.4. And Nottingham Forest have 12.9. So there's 3 clubs in the top 16 for XG against in the Premier League. And that's Forest, as mentioned earlier, Liverpool, which is why we've had 2 of them. And I have to give a shout out. He's not in my list, but I want to give a shout out to Tsimikas. Tsimikas has been quite good when he's been called upon this season. But going into left back, one of my favourite left backs in the league is Anthony Robinson, one of the most underrated players in the league. Also want to give a shout out to Anderson of Fulham. Crystal Palace, big miss for them. Been really good for Fulham. Fulham's recruitment, Anderson, Sander Berge, and Miss Smith Rowe, all been fantastic, by the way. So Fulham have nailed that. But Anthony Robinson's standout left back this season, his ability to get up and down the flank, he can defend, he can attack, so well-rounded, fantastic player. I've gone with Guardiola. I think he's been one of Manchester City's better performers this season. I want to give a shout out to Rico Lewis at right back as well. I do really like the kid. And I've gone with Lewis Hall. I think Lewis Hall has got an England call-up, very well deserved. His attacking game's always been good. His technical ability, his ability to break lines, convert into midfield, get forward has always been good. There's always been question marks around his defensive ability. That's what's really impressed me this season, how we dealt with with Saka in that game. So a well-deserved call-up for Lewis Hall. But I also want to give a shout-out to a young left-back at Bournemouth that's impressed me in Mirosh Kerkez. He was linked to United in the summer, but I wasn't sure he was ready to make that jump. When I've watched him at Bournemouth this season, he's been very impressive. When Bournemouth beat Man City 2-0, he got the 2 assists, really good ball in there. He's showing some really strong elements to his game. Is still a young lad, but Bournemouth have played some very good stuff this season. So also a shout out to him. So going into the DMs, this was probably one of the easiest ones. I think Gravenberch has been Liverpool's best player this season, and I think Caicedo, you can argue, has been Chelsea's best player this season in terms of if you look at every game. I think Palmer's had 2 or 3 quieter games, but Palmer is definitely Chelsea's best player. So that was quite easy. And I've gone with Bruno Guimaraes for the 3rd spot. None of these are actually in order, but this one would be in order. And, Gravenberch, Caicedo, probably Bruno Guimaraes. I think he's been quite good for Newcastle this season. Whenever I've watched Newcastle, and I haven't watched all their games, he has impressed me. He's just a good player. Like, he is just a good player. He's one of the best players in the Premier League. That's what you get in Bruno Guimaraes. Ryan Gravenberch, super impressive, the way that he's adapted to the 6 role. I think Ryan Gravenberch's ability to receive the ball at literally any angle, in these tight angles, he can have like 4 players around him and he can just use his body to turn away from those 4 players and drive forward with the ball or pass the ball forward, break those lines. His ability to sort of, dictate from deep, receive the ball at any angle, but also, his defensive awareness was the question mark around him playing as a 6. And I think his positional defensive awareness has been good. Moises Caicedo has been an absolute tank. How much ground he covers, he seems to be everywhere. Defensively winning duels, winning tackles, but also doing quite well going forward, and he's been great for a while. And obviously Bruno Guimaraes is a monster. I want to give an honourable mention to Baleba of obviously Brighton. He's not started every game and played every minute. Brighton do have some really good midfield options, but when being called upon, he's been impressive. His energy, his intensity, his ground coverage, fantastic, comfortable on the ball. They signed him last season from Lille when they lost Caicedo. He was very young, moulded in a bit last season, but this season is when he's really shown, okay, that is their Caicedo replacement. He is a player there, Baleba. Going into the centre mid position, and I've gone with both Tielemans and Onana because I think they've both been very impressive for Villa. I actually think that Onana is a player that will eventually be more important for Villa, but I think Tielemans has probably been better than Onana. I think Tielemans has been the best player on this list. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. So there was definitely question marks around his work rate and stuff, but he's been fantastic. Obviously, Camara's injuries probably helped him get in. And then I've gone with Kovacic. He's played more as a DM, to be honest. I probably could have put him in the DM rather than the CM because of Rodri's injury. And I think he's been pretty good for the most part. I know City haven't looked great in the last games, but I think if we just take away the last 2 or 3 games, I think he was quite good for Manchester City. Honourable mentions, there's quite a lot here. I think Curtis Jones, when fit, has been good, but he's not been fit enough. Casemiro, if you take out the Liverpool game, and that is a massive if because I cannot forget that game, I think has actually had a good season for United. I think Salah, when he's played at times, has been class. I mean, there's inconsistencies there with Tottenham, but I think he's been good. I want to give a shout out to Bentancur. Now, Bentancur would be more for the DM position. I just forgot to include him in my honourable mentions for the DM position. But Bentancur at Tottenham has looked near back to his best since his ACL injury, especially playing in a deeper role. I think he's been impressive. Thomas Partey's actually looked a bit better than Declan Rice this season, although if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd want Declan Rice in the 6, Marino and Odegaard as the 8s. I think Declan Rice is a 6, not an 8. And I think that's because of Odegaard's injury. It's not helping. And then Elliot Anderson has looked like a good signing for Forest at times. Going into attacking midfield, Palmer and Kulusevski have been probably 2 of the best players in the league so far this season. And then I've got Morgan Rogers in there as well. Because he sort of plays behind the striker. You could argue, he's not an attacking midfielder really. But Cole Palmer's been fantastic. I know the last 2 games he was a bit quiet. I do think that Cole Palmer looks better when Enzo's on the field because then they split the attacking responsibilities in terms of Enzo's a bit more attacking than Lavia. I think Lavia and Caicedo is a better pivot and Chelsea are better defensively with Lavia and Caicedo. But I think with with Caicedo and Enzo, because Enzo's sort of the left 8 and Palmer's the right 8, that means that Palmer gets a bit more space because the opposition have to deal with Enzo's attacking threat. And I think Enzo's runs and movements create space for Palmer. That I think that Palmer looks better a little bit when Enzo plays. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just a random observation I made, but that's what I personally think. But Palmer's been fantastic this season. 4 goals in a game. Was it 4 assists in a game? It's ridiculous how good he can be. Versus Man United, the way he sort of turned and touched the ball and made some good passes. Every game Palmer plays, he makes a brilliant touch, a brilliant pass. He always does something that wows me. Kulu, the way that Ange has moved him into that central role, fantastic work from Ange. He had a good pre-season playing as a striker. When Maddison was injured about a year ago, he had a good little spell at Tottenham, but he's never been a touchline winger. He doesn't have the pace for that. And I think Ange realised that he excels so much in those central areas in the half space where he can dribble, use his body physicality to make things happen, thread those little passes through. He's so good in the tight spaces on the ball, retaining the ball, but also the engine in him, the pressing, the work rate that he brings. He's been absolutely fantastic. And then, Morgan Rogers, such an interesting player, been so good for Villa since joining. Going into the right wing position, I think this was quite an easy one. I know Mbuemo can play striker as well, but it's Saka, it's Salah, and it's Mbuemo. I mean, Mo Salah, first player to get 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists this season. He's been ridiculously good under Arne Slot, and it seems the fact that Salah can reach those crazy numbers every season is not normal. I think Salah's too disrespected. I feel like people don't realise how rare it is to get Salah's numbers season in, season out. Like, he's so disrespected, considering if any other player got those numbers, the media would be crying over them. Bukayo Saka's had a fantastic season. I know Arsenal dropped off a bit lately, but Saka has been very, very good this season. Again, could be on track to break the assist record. Really influential. I think they need the likes of Martinelli and Trossard to be more consistent, because I think Saka and Havertz is where the goals come from. And then Mbuemo, I think he's been fantastic. I did a video on Mbuemo in the summer, how he'd be a good signing for Newcastle. His output, and I think he's such an underrated player, because people are talking about his output now, but his output in the Premier League over the last 3 seasons has been ridiculous. His goals and assists per 90 over the last few seasons have been ridiculous. He's always had output, essentially can play on the right, can cut and can shoot. Really good player there in Mbuemo. I want to give an honourable mention to Semenyo. I think he's been really good at Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth had a very good season. They play some very good football. They've got some very good players. And I think that Semenyo is someone that's so exciting to watch. His dribbling, his flair, but he's also an athlete. He works incredibly hard, tracks back for the team. He's the kind of player that I wouldn't be surprised if maybe someone like Tottenham have a look at him in the summer. Going on to striker. Striker for me was the hardest position, because anyone on this list can make striker. Haaland could make it. Wood could make it. Wissa could make it. Delap's really impressed me, actually. He could make it. Nicholas Jackson, I think, is a very underrated player. He could make striker. Danny Welbeck's had a good season. He could make it. And Cunha could make it. Now, I'm going to go with Cunha because he can play striker in 10. And I think his influence on all-round play is fantastic, not just goals. I think in terms of his all-round influence on the players around him, if you take away the goals, he's fantastic. I'm going to go with Chris Wood because of his goals and conversion rate is a literal joke. It's the best conversion rate in the league. And at the end of the day, while Haaland's dropped off, he has 12 goals. He is the top scorer. I feel like you've got to go Haaland. But I feel unfair leaving out Delap, Nicholas Jackson, Welbeck. They've all been really good. Now, for left wing was the most difficult position, so I've cheated a little bit. Because the only left wing that really stands out to me is Luis Diaz. Now, I think Gakpo has been really good when called upon in the Premier League, but he's not just quite had the minutes that Diaz has had in the Premier League. He played a bit in the Champions League. He's starting to get those Premier League minutes, because we're talking about Premier League players. It's got to be Luis Diaz. He's the standout left wing by a long way this season. Martinelli's not quite reached the level. I do think Garnacho's been quite good for United, but he's been very inconsistent and he's now getting really overhated at the moment. Harvey Barnes has really impressed me off the bench, but I think when he starts, he doesn't seem as good. So I've gone with Luis Diaz for left wing, and my other 2 options, I've gone with Wissa and Brennan Johnson. Now, Brennan Johnson has played on the right this season, and Wissa has played striker this season, but Wissa can play left wing, and Brennan Johnson can play left wing, and I was really, really struggling with this position. And I think that it'd be unfair to leave Brennan Johnson out after the goals he scored this season. I think he's looked a lot better. And I think that Wissa, again, the goals he scored with Brentford this season, how good he's been, it's unfair to leave them out. So because they've played left wing in the past, I've put them as my other left wingers, because there's not many standout left wings this season. I don't think Son's been at his best. I think Diaz has been the only real standout left wing this season. Grealish, inconsistent. Chelsea, I mean, sometimes it's Sancho, sometimes it's Neto, but I think Neto's looked really good lately, actually, to be fair, but I think he's better on the right. It's really difficult to pick that position, in my opinion, so that's who I've gone with. So, they are my top 3 players in each position. I feel like I've missed out someone really obvious. I bet there's someone who's having a really good season, and I've just, missed them out because I haven't been thinking. So, if I have, let me know down below who I've missed. Thank you for watching. Bye.